4, after reading about earning money by recycling, Solomon and Marcus are excited to do some recycling themselves. Solomon has some electronics his parents said he could recycle. Marcus has permission to recycle some small household appliances. They looked online and discovered that the local recycling center offers 60 cents per pound for appliances and $1.50 per pound for electronics, which sounds really good, but there's a catch. It says, but there's a $27 hazardous waste fee that has to be paid to the recycle electronics, no matter how much you recycle. Okay? A, write one equation that represents how much Marcus earns from recycling appliances. Okay? So for just appliances, it's 60 cents per pound. We're going to call per pound X. Okay? So we're going to say that Y is going to be equal to 60 cents times how many ever pounds you have of appliances. Okay? Part B, write another equation that represents how much Solomon would earn by recycling electronics. So we're going to start it with Y equals again. But instead of 60 cents, he's going to get how much? $1.50. So you're going to take $1.50 times the X minus how much? The 27. That's a fee you have to pay for recycling hazardous waste. Sounds like California's fees all over the place, right? They charge for everything. You ever know, if you go to the grocery store and you buy a soda, they're going to charge you more than what it even costs for a fee, right? CRV, is that what it's called? CRV. Okay. Part C, how many pounds would they have to each recycle so that they could have earned the same amount of money from the recycling center? We want to know, where are these two guys going to be equal? So guess what we do? We set them equal to each other. We take the 60 cents times X and we set it equal to the $1.50 X minus the 27. We just put an equal sign in between them. Okay. Then we're going to solve by doing inverse operations like we did the other day. Okay. So the first thing you notice is there's X's on both sides. So you're going to subtract $1.50X from both sides. That gets a negative number or a negative variable on the left, but this is negative over here. What do you get when you divide a negative by a negative? We're gonna end up with a positive. So even though it's weird and we have negatives right now, it'll work out just fine. When we divide by negative 0.90 cents, ends up being positive 30. So at 30 pounds, these two guys are gonna earn the same amount of money. Okay, I'm going to move it up. You'll see it in just a second. There it is. All right. So when they both recycle 30 pounds, then they'll be equal to each other. All right. So question 35. Now we're going to talk about camping. Summertime camping. Morgan and her family are camping on their summer vacation. Morgan decided to take a bike ride before it got too hot. She left the campsite and rode her bike at a speed of 16 miles per hour for 1.5 hours. How far did she bike? Please include units as you calculate. So we're going to use the equation D equals RT. Does anybody know what that D stands for? Distance, yeah, distance. Does anybody know what the R stands for? Rate. And does anybody know what the T stands for? Time. Okay? So you've got 3 variables up there. You're going to plug in for 2 and solve for the third one. Okay? So whatever numbers they give you, you need to decide. Is it the distance? Is it the rate? Or is it the time? And plug it into the correct spot. So the first number they gave us was 16 miles per hour. Is that distance, rate, or time? That should be the rate. So directly underneath the R, you're going to plug in your 16. Then you've got for 1.5 hours. Is that distance or time? Time. So you plug that in directly underneath the T. I'm going to use parentheses to indicate that I'm multiplying. So 16 times 1.5 means that Morgan rode her bike for 24 miles. Okay? Part B. Morgan's dad went to get groceries at the campsite store at the bottom of the mountain. He drove 20 miles per hour for 0.4 hours. How far did he drive? Please include units as you calculate. So we're going to use DRT again. Distance equals rate times time. And we're going to figure out where to plug in. Okay, so the first one is he drove 20 miles per hour. Is that distance, rate, or time? Rate. That's his rate. And he drove for 0.4 hours. What's that? Time. So we're going to plug in for rate and time again. We're going to use a calculator, multiply the 20 times 0.04. And that means he drove 8 miles. All right, part C, when Morgan's dad returned from the store, he went for a jog. He jogged for 1 hour and 15 minutes at a pace of 4.8 miles per hour. How far did he jog? Please include units of measure. Include units as you calculate. Okay, so again, DRT, distance equals rate times time. And the first piece of information is 1 hour and 15 minutes. Is that distance, rate, or time? Time. And then 4.8 miles per hour, that's the rate. So you're going to multiply those two together. So the 1.25 times 4.8, you're going to get 6 miles. He went on a 6-mile jog. All right. Question number 36 says, each part of problem 35 involved 3 units of measure. You were given 2, then calculated the third. Part A, what 3 units of measure were common to all 3 parts of problem 35? Yes, distance, rate, time. Distance, rate, time. We talked about distance, we talked about rate, we talked about time. Okay, part B. Using words, write a single equation that models the relationship among these 3 units of measure. I wrote D equals RT, but if you write out the whole word, it's distance equals rate times time. Distance equals rate times time. Okay? Part C. Taylor, Morgan's older sister, will be driving from her house to the campsite tomorrow. She averages 65 miles per hour for the trip. It is 195 miles from her house to the campsite. Use the relationship from part B to determine how long it will take Taylor to drive from her house to the campsite. All right. So we're going to use the same equation, distance equals rate times time, but notice something different plugs in this time. The 195 is what? Distance. So that gets plugged in here. 195 is the distance, 65 is the rate. We need to solve for t. So we need to solve for the time. Okay? We're going to divide both sides by 65 instead of multiplying this time. And when 65 goes into 195, it goes in there 3 times. So it's going to take it's going to take Taylor, Morgan's sister, 3 hours to drive there. All right, while camping with her family, Morgan took her puppy to the river. The river has a current of 27 feet per minute. The puppy paddled upstream at a rate of 44 feet per minute in still water for 8 minutes. It may help to draw a diagram representing the situation. How many feet did the puppy swim? If you would like to draw a puppy on your paper, you are more than welcome to draw a puppy. But I can't draw a puppy, so I did not draw a puppy. But if you want to draw one, you can. Okay, so here's what it looks like. The rate of the puppy is determined by taking how fast the puppy swims, which is 44, minus the current. So if you've ever swam in a river, sometimes that water's pushing against you, right? Does that speed you up or slow you down? Slows you down. So we have to subtract the 27 feet per minute. That tells us the puppy is actually only swimming 17 feet per minute. Okay, so if he's going to swim for 8 minutes, we're going to multiply the 17 times the 8. And that means that puppy is going 136 feet. All right, draw your puppy if you'd like. Draw the current if you'd like. Okay. And the last question, review your work from Part D. If you did not include units, put units on each of the numbers and variables in the relationship using dimensional analysis. Verify the distance, rate, and time relationship using your answer that includes units. Okay? This is what they want you to do. They want you to say that that puppy swam 17 feet per 1 minute. So they just want you to write this feet and minute thing. Okay? And it took that puppy 8 minutes. Okay? So since both of these have units of one or of minute and minute, they want you to group the minutes together, which makes that big 1, and they cancel. That means your units that are left are feet. So when you multiply the 17 times the 8, you get 136 feet. All right, finish copying that down, and then you're going to pull out your Chromebook for today. There are 5 assignments now listed up on the board, so make sure you go in order. If you haven't finished the candy practice, finish that first. Then do 611, 612, 613, 614, okay? If you need help with that or you have not installed candy practice, let me know. All right, raise your hand if you do not have a Chromebook or your Chromebook is dead. Leave your packet out because I need to come look at page, I think it's 5 and 6.